Imagine reaching into an old drawer, pulling out a simple quarter, and discovering that it could be worth thousands of dollars. It sounds impossible, but for some collectors, that dream became reality with a mysterious coin known as the 1965 no-mint mark Washington quarter. At first glance, it looks like an ordinary quarter that millions of Americans used every day. But hidden within its history is a story connected to one of the most dramatic changes ever made to American coinage. And if you know what to look for, this seemingly common coin might reveal a surprising secret. The year was 1965, and America was facing a coin shortage. People were pulling silver coins out of circulation because the value of the silver inside them was rising. As a result, quarters, dimes, and half dollars were disappearing from everyday use. The United States Mint needed a solution, and fast. To keep coins flowing through the economy, Congress approved major changes to American coin production. One of the biggest changes affected the Washington quarter. Since 1932, the quarter had been made primarily from silver. But in 1965, the Mint introduced a new copper-nickel clad composition that contained no silver in its outer layers. This decision marked the beginning of a new era in American coinage. At the same time, another unusual decision was made. Mint marks were temporarily removed from all coins produced between 1965 and 1967. Normally, mint marks identify where a coin was made, such as Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. Officials believed that collectors were hoarding coins with certain mint marks, which they thought was making the coin shortage even worse. As a result, every quarter struck during 1965, regardless of where it was produced, appeared without a mint mark. This created the famous 1965 no-mint mark Washington quarter. At first, that might not sound very exciting. After all, every quarter from 1965 lacks a mint mark. If they all look the same, why do collectors pay attention to them today? The answer lies in a combination of history, rare varieties, and a few extraordinary mistakes that escaped the mint. The obverse, or front side, features the familiar portrait of George Washington. The design was created by sculptor John Flanagan and had already been used on quarters for more than 3 decades by 1965. Above Washington appears the word liberty. The phrase "In God We Trust" is displayed to the left, while the date 1965 appears below. The reverse shows a majestic eagle with its wings spread wide. The eagle stands proudly on a bundle of arrows, symbolizing strength and readiness. Olive branches below represent peace. Around the design are the words United States of America and quarter dollar. Although the design remained largely unchanged, the metal composition was completely different from earlier silver quarters. The new clad construction consisted of a pure copper core sandwiched between layers of copper and nickel. This made the coin less expensive to produce and helped preserve the nation's silver supply. Most 1965 quarters are common and worth only face value or a small premium. Millions upon millions were produced. But some examples have become highly desirable because of unusual characteristics. One of the most famous discoveries involves quarters struck on silver planchets. When the mint transitioned from silver to clad coinage, a few leftover silver blanks reportedly remained in the production system. If one of these silver blanks was accidentally fed into the presses during 1965, the result would be a quarter that carried the 1965 date but was made from silver instead of clad metal. These accidental silver strikes are among the most valuable 1965 quarters ever discovered. To the average person, they may look almost identical to regular examples. However, experienced collectors know several ways to tell the difference. A normal clad quarter reveals a visible copper-colored stripe along its edge. A silver quarter does not show this copper band. Instead, the edge appears entirely silver in color. Weight can also provide an important clue. Silver quarters generally weigh slightly more than their clad counterparts. Serious collectors often use precise digital scales to verify their findings. Because so few authentic silver planchet examples exist, they have become legendary within the coin collecting community. Another category that attracts attention involves high-grade coins. Most quarters from 1965 entered circulation immediately and experienced wear through everyday use. Finding one in exceptional condition decades later is surprisingly difficult. Collectors place enormous value on coins that appear nearly perfect. Tiny scratches, marks, and imperfections can dramatically affect a coin's grade. When a 1965 no-mint mark quarter survives with exceptional detail and brilliant surfaces, competition among collectors can become intense. Some of these top-quality examples have sold for thousands of dollars at auction. Imagine that. A quarter originally worth 25 cents becoming worth hundreds or even thousands simply because it survived in remarkable condition. Then there are error coins. Mint errors occur when something goes wrong during production. These mistakes can create unique coins that collectors eagerly seek. Examples include double dies, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and other unusual manufacturing defects. A double die occurs when part of the design appears duplicated because of an issue during the die creation process. Letters, numbers, or design elements may look slightly doubled under magnification. Off-center strikes happen when a blank is not properly positioned when struck. This causes part of the design to appear shifted away from the center. Clipped planchets occur when the metal blank is improperly cut before striking, leaving a section missing from the finished coin. Because each error is different, values can vary widely. Some minor errors may bring modest premiums, while dramatic examples can sell for significant amounts. Over the years, several impressive 1965 quarter varieties and errors have appeared at major auctions, attracting collectors from around the country. One especially exciting category involves transitional errors. These occur when a coin from one production standard accidentally uses materials intended for an earlier or later version. For the 1965 quarter, the transition away from silver created the perfect opportunity for such mistakes. Whenever one of these rare transitional pieces surfaces, it immediately generates excitement among specialists. So how can you determine whether your own 1965 quarter is special? The first step is checking the edge. Look carefully at the side of the coin. If you see a copper-colored stripe running through the middle, it is most likely a standard-clad quarter. If the edge appears completely silver without any visible copper layer, further investigation may be worthwhile. Next, examine the overall condition. Coins with sharp details, strong luster, and minimal wear are generally more valuable than heavily circulated examples. After that, inspect the coin for unusual characteristics. Look for missing details, doubling, off-center designs, or anything that appears different from a normal quarter. A digital scale can provide another useful clue. Comparing the weight to known standards may help identify unusual planchets or composition errors. However, collectors should remember that many online claims are exaggerated. Not every old quarter is worth a fortune. Authentic rare examples usually require professional verification before major value can be established. This is important because counterfeiters sometimes alter coins to make them appear rare. Others may plate coins or modify dates in an attempt to deceive buyers. Professional grading services play a major role in protecting collectors. These organizations authenticate coins, evaluate condition, and encapsulate them in secure holders. Certification can provide confidence when buying or selling valuable pieces. One fascinating fact about the 1965 quarter is that it represents a turning point in American monetary history. For generations, Americans carried silver coins in their pockets without giving much thought to the precious metal they contained. The 1965 transition effectively ended that era for circulating quarters. In many ways, the coin serves as a bridge between two worlds. It preserves the classic Washington design while introducing the modern clad composition still used today. Collectors also appreciate the historical context surrounding the coin shortage of the 1960s. Every 1965 quarter tells a story about economic pressures, rising silver prices, and the government's effort to keep commerce moving smoothly. Another surprising detail is how many valuable coins have been discovered years after they were minted. Some were found in old collections. Others appeared in bankrolls, inherited coin jars, or forgotten boxes stored in attics. Stories like these keep the hobby exciting. Every collector dreams of making a remarkable discovery. Even though the odds are small, The possibility that an ordinary-looking coin might be something extraordinary continues to inspire people to examine their change more closely. Today, the 1965 no-mint mark Washington quarter remains one of the most discussed modern-era quarters in American numismatics. While most examples are common, the rare exceptions have achieved legendary status among collectors. The combination of historical significance, transitional production changes, scarce errors, and high-grade survivors gives this coin a unique place in collecting history. And perhaps that is what makes it so fascinating. It reminds us that value is not always obvious at first glance. Sometimes the most ordinary object can hold an extraordinary story. So the next time you come across a 1965 quarter, take a closer look. Check the edge. Examine the details. Consider the history hidden within that small piece of metal. Because somewhere out there, a rare example may still be waiting to be discovered. A coin that once bought a simple purchase decades ago could now be worth hundreds, thousands, or even more to the right collector. And that possibility is exactly why the search never ends. Imagine reaching into an old jar of coins, pulling out a worn 1967 Washington quarter, and discovering that the small piece of pocket change in your hand could be worth hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of dollars. It sounds impossible. After all, millions of Americans used these quarters every day. They paid for groceries, movie tickets, gas, and phone calls. Most were spent without a second thought. But hidden among the countless ordinary coins of 1967 is a fascinating mystery that continues to excite collectors today. A rare variety often referred to as the 1967 no-mint mark Washington quarter has become one of the most talked about coins from the modern era. While every genuine 1967 quarter was struck without a mint mark, certain examples with unusual characteristics and striking errors have captured the attention of collectors and created incredible value. Today, we're diving into the story of the 1967 Washington quarter, exploring its history, its unique features, what makes some examples so valuable, and how you can tell whether the coin in your collection might be worth far more than 25 cents. To understand why the 1967 Washington quarter is special, we first need to travel back to the 1960s. America was facing a coin shortage. Silver prices were rising rapidly, and people were pulling silver coins from circulation because the metal inside them was becoming more valuable than their face value. The United States Mint was under pressure to produce massive numbers of coins for daily commerce. To solve the problem, Congress passed the Coinage Act of 1965. This law changed American coinage forever. Before 1965, quarters contained 90% silver. But starting in 1965, the mint switched to a copper-nickel-clad composition. The silver quarter was replaced by a less expensive version designed for circulation. At the same time, the mint made another unusual decision. To discourage collectors from hoarding coins, mint marks were temporarily removed from all circulating coins between 1965 and 1967. That means every normal Washington quarter struck in 1967 was produced without a mint mark, regardless of whether it came from Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. The result was one of the largest coin production efforts in American history. More than 1.5 billion Washington quarters were produced during 1967. Most remain common today. Yet within that enormous production run, a small number of extraordinary coins emerged. The Washington quarter itself carries one of the most recognizable designs in American coinage. The front of the coin features a portrait of George Washington, the first president of the United States. The design was created by sculptor John Flanagan and first appeared in 1932 to commemorate Washington's 200th birthday. Above Washington's head appears the word Liberty. The phrase "In God We Trust" is positioned to the left, while the date 1967 appears below. The reverse design features a majestic eagle perched on a bundle of arrows with olive branches below. The eagle symbolizes strength and readiness, while the olive branches represent peace. For millions of Americans, this design became a familiar part of everyday life. What makes the 1967 quarter different is not its basic appearance but the unusual circumstances surrounding its production. Because mint marks were intentionally removed, many collectors today become excited when they hear the phrase, "no mint mark." However, this creates confusion. A genuine 1967 quarter should not have a mint mark. The absence of a mint mark alone does not make the coin rare. The real value comes from condition, striking quality, and most importantly, rare mint errors. And that's where things become interesting. During the intense production period of the mid-1960s, the mint was operating at incredible speed. Machines ran constantly, and quality control was sometimes stretched to its limits. As a result, a variety of errors slipped into circulation. One of the most sought after is the double die variety. On these coins, portions of the design appear slightly doubled because of imperfections during die creation. Collectors often examine the lettering, date, and Washington's profile looking for signs of doubling. Another valuable category involves off-center strikes. These occur when the coin blank is not properly aligned during striking. Part of the design may be missing, creating a dramatic appearance that instantly catches attention. Then there are clipped planchet errors. In these cases, a portion of the coin blank was missing before the coin was struck, leaving a curved section absent from the finished coin. Some collectors search for broad strike errors, where the coin was struck without the retaining collar. This causes the coin to spread outward and appear wider than normal. Perhaps the most impressive examples are those struck on the wrong metal planchet. These mistakes occurred when a blank intended for another denomination accidentally entered the quarter production line. Such errors are exceptionally rare and can command astonishing prices. Condition also plays a major role in value. Although billions were produced, very few 1967 quarters survived in pristine condition. Most entered circulation immediately and accumulated years of wear. Collectors place tremendous value on examples with sharp details, strong luster, and minimal contact marks. Coins graded mint state 65 or higher often attract serious interest. At the highest grading levels, prices can rise dramatically because so few examples exist. The difference between an ordinary circulated quarter and a premium uncirculated specimen can be enormous. So what kind of money are we talking about? A typical circulated 1967 quarter is generally worth only face value or slightly more. However, uncirculated examples can sell for significantly higher amounts depending on quality. High-grade certified examples have sold for hundreds of dollars. Some superb specimens with exceptional preservation have reached into the thousands. Error coins create even more excitement. Off-center strikes, dramatic double dies, and wrong planchet errors have produced auction results ranging from several $100s to many thousands. Certain spectacular mint errors have sold for prices that surprise even experienced collectors. Imagine finding a coin worth a few cents in change and later discovering collectors are willing to pay enough money to buy a used car. That possibility is one reason coin collecting remains so popular. Of course, whenever valuable coins become famous, misinformation follows. Many people believe any 1967 quarter without a mint mark is rare. That is not true. Since mint marks were intentionally omitted during 1967, every normal quarter from that year lacks a mint mark. If someone claims that a regular 1967 quarter is worth thousands solely because it has no mint mark, skepticism is wise. Instead, because mint marks were removed from coins between 1965 and 1967, these years represent a unique chapter in American coin history. The policy was intended to reduce collecting activity, but it produced the opposite effect. Many collectors became even more interested in searching through coins from the era. I want to tell you about a coin that most people have probably held at some point without giving it a second thought. A coin that looks ordinary, spends like pocket change, and often sits forgotten in jars and drawers across America. But what if one specific version of that coin could be worth hundreds, thousands, or even more to the right collector? Today, we're diving into the mystery surrounding the 1979 Washington Quarter and the stories that have turned certain examples into highly sought-after treasures. The Washington Quarter is one of the most recognizable coins in American history. Introduced in 1932 to honor George Washington's 200th birthday, it became a permanent part of U.S. coinage and has remained in circulation for generations. By 1979, millions of Americans carried these quarters every day, using them for vending machines, parking meters, and countless small purchases. The 1979 Washington Quarter was produced during a period when the United States Mint was striking enormous numbers of coins to meet public demand. The country relied heavily on coin-operated machines, and quarters were among the most frequently used denominations. Because of this, the Mint produced hundreds of millions of quarters that year. At first glance, the 1979 quarter appears completely ordinary. On the front, or obverse, is the familiar portrait of George Washington facing left. Above him appears the word, Liberty, while the national motto, In God We Trust, sits beside his profile. The year 1979 appears below. The reverse features the iconic eagle design created by John Flanagan. The eagle stands proudly with its wings spread, perched on a bundle of arrows symbolizing strength and readiness. Olive branches below represent peace. Around the outer edge are the words United States of America and quarter dollar. Most 1979 quarters were struck at the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. Coins from Denver carry a small D mint mark, while Philadelphia quarters of that era traditionally carried no mint mark at all. San Francisco also produced proof versions intended for collectors. This is where things begin to get interesting. Many people search for what they call a 1979 no mint mark quarter. But here's the surprising truth. Philadelphia quarters from 1979 were supposed to have no mint mark. That means the absence of a mint mark on a standard 1979 quarter does not automatically make it rare. However, confusion surrounding the phrase no mint mark has fueled decades of interest among collectors. Countless people have examined their pocket change hoping to discover a hidden fortune. While most ordinary examples are worth only face value, certain conditions and minting errors can dramatically increase their value. To understand why, we need to look at how coins are made. Every coin begins as a blank metal disc called a planchet. The planchet is fed into a press where dies stamp the design onto both sides under tremendous pressure. When everything works perfectly, the result is a normal coin. But when something goes wrong, unusual varieties and errors can be created. Collectors love these mistakes because they are accidental and often very limited in number. Some 1979 quarters have been discovered with off-center strikes. In these cases, the planchet was not properly aligned when struck. Part of the design may be missing, creating a dramatic appearance. Depending on how severe the error is and how much of the date remains visible, values can range from modest amounts to hundreds of dollars. Another sought-after error involves double striking. This occurs when a coin receives more than one strike from the dies. The resulting design can appear distorted, shifted, or partially duplicated. Such errors are fascinating because they provide a glimpse into the minting process itself. There are also examples with die cracks, clipped planchets, and other unusual production mistakes. While not every error is valuable, some become highly collectible because of their rarity and visual appeal. Condition is another major factor that affects value. Most 1979 quarters entered circulation immediately. They passed through countless hands, cash registers, banks, and machines. Over time, scratches, wear, and damage accumulated. Finding a 1979 quarter in pristine condition today is much harder than many people realize. Professional grading services evaluate coins based on preservation and quality. A quarter that appears ordinary to the average person may receive a high-grade certification if it retains sharp details, strong luster, and minimal contact marks. For collectors, these top-grade examples can command surprisingly strong prices. A heavily circulated 1979 quarter may be worth only 25 cents. A lightly circulated example might be worth slightly more. But a coin graded at the highest levels can attract serious attention from collectors competing to own one of the finest known examples. Auction records have shown that exceptional 1979 quarters in elite grades can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. The reason is simple. While millions were made, very few survived in nearly perfect condition. Collectors building top-ranked sets are often willing to pay significant premiums for the best examples available. Proof coins from San Francisco add another layer of interest. Unlike circulation coins, proof quarters were specially struck for collectors. These coins feature mirrored fields and frosted details that create a striking contrast. They were carefully manufactured and packaged to preserve their quality. Most proof quarters are not extremely rare, but exceptional specimens with perfect grades can achieve impressive values. Some proof coins also exhibit attractive cameo or deep cameo finishes that collectors find especially desirable. One of the most common questions people ask is whether a missing mint mark automatically makes a 1979 quarter valuable. The answer is usually no. Since Philadelphia quarters from 1979 were intentionally produced without a mint mark, finding one is completely normal. The real challenge is determining whether the coin has an unusual characteristic that sets it apart from the hundreds of millions of others produced that year. So how can you identify a potentially valuable example? Start by examining the coin carefully under good lighting. Look for unusually sharp details, strong original luster, and minimal wear. Pay close attention to Washington's hair, the eagle's feathers, and the lettering. Next, inspect the coin for signs of minting errors. Look for doubling in the design, off-center strikes, clipped edges, unusual cracks, or other abnormalities. Genuine mint errors typically occur during production and affect the coin itself, rather than being the result of damage after it left the mint. A magnifying glass can be extremely helpful. Many important details are difficult to see with the naked eye. It's also important to be cautious of altered coins. Some individuals attempt to create fake rarities by modifying ordinary quarters. They may grind surfaces, remove details, or artificially damage coins to mimic genuine errors. Experienced collectors often rely on professional authentication services to verify valuable discoveries. If you believe you have found an unusual 1979 quarter, obtaining an expert opinion can be worthwhile. Professional grading companies can determine authenticity, identify errors, and assign a condition grade that helps establish market value. One fascinating aspect of coin collecting is that rarity does not always depend solely on mintage numbers. Imagine two coins produced in the same quantity. If one survives in far better condition than the other, collectors may value it much more highly. This principle explains why certain high-grade 1979 quarters attract such strong interest despite being part of a large original mintage. The hunt itself is also part of the excitement. Many collectors began their journey by searching through spare change. There is something uniquely thrilling about the possibility that an overlooked coin could hold unexpected value. Unlike many collectibles that require significant investment, coin collecting often starts with items people already possess. The 1979 Washington quarter perfectly represents this appeal. Most examples are common, yet the possibility of discovering an exceptional specimen keeps collectors searching. There are also historical reasons why this coin remains popular. The late 1970s marked an interesting period in American coinage. The nation had recently celebrated its bicentennial, and coin collectors were paying increased attention to modern U.S. coins. Many people saved coins from the era, believing they might become valuable in the future. Today, those saved collections sometimes reveal surprises. Coins stored carefully for decades may emerge in remarkably preserved condition, attracting interest from modern collectors. Another fun fact involves the quarter's composition. By 1979, quarters were no longer made from silver for circulation. Instead, they consisted of a copper core sandwiched between outer layers of copper nickel. This change had occurred years earlier as rising silver prices made precious metal coinage impractical for everyday use. Even though the 1979 quarter lacks silver content, collectors still pursue certain examples because rarity and condition often matter more than metal value. The coin also serves as a reminder that valuable collectibles can hide in plain sight. While many people focus on ancient treasures or rare gold coins, sometimes ordinary-looking pieces capture the greatest attention among collectors. Every scratch, every detail, and every production quirk tells a story. A coin that spent decades circulating across the country may have passed through thousands of hands before ending up in someone's collection. For collectors, that connection to history is part of the magic. The 1979 Washington quarter may not be the rarest coin ever produced, but it continues to spark curiosity because of the myths, misunderstandings, and genuine discoveries associated with it. Whether it's a high-grade survivor, an unusual mint error, or a beautifully preserved proof coin, certain examples have proven that even modern coins can command impressive prices. So the next time you come across a 1979 quarter, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a closer look. Check the details. Examine the condition. Search for anything unusual. Most likely, you'll find an ordinary quarter worth exactly 25 cents. But every collector knows that sometimes the most valuable discoveries begin with the coins people overlook. And that's what makes the search so fascinating. Somewhere in a forgotten coin jar, tucked away in an old drawer, or hiding among everyday pocket change, another remarkable 1979 quarter may still be waiting to be found. What if I told you that an ordinary-looking Washington quarter from 1981 could be worth hundreds, even thousands of dollars, simply because of something that isn't there? Most people never look closely at their pocket change. They spend it, drop it into jars, or leave it forgotten in drawers. But hidden among millions of common coins are a few rare mistakes that collectors spend years searching for. One of those mysterious treasures is known as the 1981 no-mint mark Washington quarter. At first glance, it looks exactly like any other quarter. The same familiar portrait of George Washington. The same eagle on the back. The same silver-colored appearance. But for collectors, one tiny missing detail can make all the difference. Today, we're exploring the fascinating story of the 1981 no-mint mark Washington quarter. A coin surrounded by confusion, mystery, and collector interest. We'll discover why people search for it, how much it can be worth, and how you can tell if the quarter in your pocket might be something special. To understand this coin, we first need to travel back to 1981. The United States was entering a new decade. Ronald Reagan had just become president. Video games were growing in popularity. Personal computers were beginning to enter homes. And the United States Mint was producing billions of coins to keep up with the nation's economy. Among those coins was the Washington quarter. The Washington quarter had already been around for nearly 50 years. It was first introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th birthday of America's first president, George Washington. The design became one of the most recognizable images in American coinage history. By 1981, quarters were being struck at multiple mint facilities. The two main locations were Philadelphia and Denver. For many years, Philadelphia coins often carried no mint mark at all. This was normal and expected. Meanwhile, coins struck in Denver carried a small D mint mark. That historical detail is where much of the confusion surrounding the 1981 no mint mark quarter begins. Many people hear the phrase no mint mark and immediately assume they have found a rare error coin. But the truth is more complicated. A regular 1981 quarter produced in Philadelphia was supposed to have no mint mark. In other words, most 1981 quarters without a mint mark are completely normal. However, collectors remain interested because certain varieties, unusual strikes, and high-grade examples can still be worth significant money. Let's take a closer look at the coin itself. The 1981 Washington quarter is composed of a copper core covered by outer layers of copper and nickel. It weighs approximately 5.67 grams and measures just over 24 millimeters in diameter. On the front, known as the obverse, you'll see George Washington facing left. Above him appears the word liberty. The phrase "In God We Trust" sits to the left, while the date 1981 appears below. On standard Philadelphia coins, there is no mint mark beside the date. The reverse features an eagle with its wings spread wide. Arrows are clutched in its talons, symbolizing strength and readiness. Olive branches below represent peace. The words United States of America curve around the top, while quarter dollar appears below. It's a design that millions of Americans recognize instantly. So if most 1981 Philadelphia quarters have no mint mark, why do collectors care? The answer comes down to condition and errors. Coin collecting isn't only about age. A coin can be old but common. On the other hand, a coin can be relatively modern and still become valuable if it possesses something unusual. One important factor is preservation. Most quarters from 1981 entered circulation immediately. They passed through countless hands, cash registers, vending machines, and banks. Over time, they accumulated scratches, dents, and wear. Finding a 1981 quarter today isn't difficult. Finding one in nearly perfect condition is another story entirely. Collectors use grading systems to evaluate a coin's condition. The higher the grade, the more valuable the coin often becomes. Many 1981 quarters were poorly struck compared to coins from some other years. As a result, obtaining a sharply detailed example with strong luster can be surprisingly challenging. This scarcity of top-quality examples has driven prices upward among serious collectors. Some certified mint-state specimens have sold for hundreds of dollars. In exceptional grades, values can climb much higher than most people would expect for a coin worth only 25 cents. Then there are mint errors. Mint errors occur when something goes wrong during production. Perhaps the coin is struck off-center. Maybe it is struck on the wrong metal planchet. Sometimes doubling appears in parts of the design. Other times, a coin may show unusual die cracks, filled dies, or other production abnormalities. When a genuine error is discovered on a 1981 quarter, collectors often become very interested. Depending on the rarity and visibility of the error, values can range from modest premiums to impressive sums. One reason error coins attract attention is because every mistake tells a story. A normal coin follows the rules. An error coin reveals what happened when the machinery, dies, or production process did something unexpected. Collectors love that sense of mystery. Over the years, auction records have demonstrated the importance of quality and rarity. Common circulated 1981 no-mint mark quarters are usually worth face value. You could spend them anywhere. But high-grade certified examples have sold for significantly more. Some pristine pieces graded among the finest known examples have reached prices in the hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depending on their certification and rarity within the grading population. This enormous difference in value surprises many people. How can one quarter be worth 25 cents while another from the same year is worth hundreds of dollars? The answer lies in supply and demand. There may be millions of ordinary examples, but there are only a handful preserved at the highest levels of quality. Collectors competing for the best examples can drive prices dramatically higher. Of course, whenever money becomes involved, counterfeit coins eventually appear. That's why it's important to know how to identify a genuine 1981 no-mint mark Washington quarter. The first step is understanding that no-mint mark on a Philadelphia quarter from 1981 is normal. Many online claims suggest every missing mint mark quarter is rare. That simply isn't true. Next, examine the coin carefully. Look for signs of alteration. Sometimes dishonest individuals attempt to remove mint marks from coins struck at other facilities. Under magnification, scratches or damage may become visible around the area where the mint mark should be. Weight is another useful clue. A genuine quarter should weigh close to its official standard. Major differences can indicate damage, alteration, or a counterfeit piece. If you believe you have an unusually valuable example, professional grading services can authenticate and evaluate it. These services examine the coin, assign a grade, and seal it within a protective holder. For serious collectors, professional certification provides confidence and credibility. Now let's look at some surprising facts about the 1981 quarter. One interesting detail is that collectors often consider 1981 and 1982 quarters more difficult to find in top condition than many people realize. Because relatively few collectors saved large numbers of these coins when they were new, pristine examples became scarcer over time. Another fascinating fact is how quickly public interest can spread. A single news article, online video, or social media post can suddenly cause thousands of people to check their change jars for a specific coin. The 1981 no-mint mark quarter has benefited from this phenomenon. Many people hear about it and immediately start searching through old collections. Most won't find a fortune, but the excitement of the hunt keeps the hobby alive. Coin collecting has always been part treasure hunt and part history lesson. Every coin represents a moment in time. A quarter from 1981 may have traveled through countless cities, businesses, and families over the past 4 decades. It may have bought a newspaper, a cup of coffee, or an arcade game token. Today, it serves as a small piece of American history. Collectors appreciate that connection. They don't simply see metal. They see stories. They see craftsmanship. They see a physical object that has survived decades of use. That's one reason the Washington Quarter series remains so popular. It combines history, accessibility, and the possibility of discovering something valuable. You don't need to be wealthy to participate. Anyone can start by checking the coins they already have. And sometimes that simple search leads to an unexpected discovery. Perhaps the greatest appeal of the 1981 No Mint Mark Quarter is that it teaches an important lesson. Details matter. A tiny mark, or the absence of one, can completely change how people view a coin. What appears ordinary at first glance can become fascinating when examined more closely. The next time you receive change, take a moment before dropping those coins into a jar. Look at the dates. Look at the mint marks. Look for unusual features. Most coins will be common. Some may be interesting, and every once in a while you might uncover something that collectors have been searching for. The 1981 No Mint Mark Washington Quarter may not be rare in every form, but its story reminds us why coin collecting continues to capture imaginations around the world, because hidden among everyday objects are pieces of history waiting to be noticed. And somewhere right now, in a forgotten drawer, an old coin album, or a dusty change jar, another quarter may be waiting for someone to take a closer look and discover that what seemed ordinary was actually far more interesting than anyone ever imagined.